Hey guys, Omni here. Last night I went and saw Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, and I just right out of the gate, man, I loved this movie. I enjoyed this honestly more than the original. And I think so far for this year, this movie has blown every other movie I've seen this year out of the water, man. From the emotional standpoint this movie takes, from the writing, the performances, the animation, the action, every element of this movie, I think, outshines any of the previous films I've seen this year. This movie is a quite literal work of art, as all films are, but like this movie takes it to a whole other level, man. This movie pushes the envelope even harder, man. Like, my lord, the visuals, the iconography, the just the imagery throughout this film is just, it's just jaw-droppingly beautiful. It is the most gorgeous thing I've seen in animation in forever. On top of the animation, on top of the style, this movie just still carries through that same heart. We pick up, I think like a year and a half later after the events of the first film, where the first one was definitely like a coming-of-age story. This one continues that in a way thematically, with him now kind of having this idea of what he can contribute to this world and this drive, this aspiration to do more. This is the part of the story where he's starting to try to figure out where his future is going to go. So like his parents are also like struggling with him growing up, because with the realizations and the things that came with the previous movie, he's obviously matured a little bit from that and is starting to show with his goals, with the things that he's pursuing, but also with the things that are going on in his life. He's disappearing. The Spider-Man stuff's getting in the way. Obviously, the secret is starting to like show itself within his family dynamic, and they're like definitely wondering what's up with him. And obviously his parents kind of concerned, and obviously he's hitting this point in his life where he's going to be starting to branch out, starting to leave the nest. So you kind of have that story where they're trying to accept and learn that eventually that's something that he's going to have to do. And there's this lovely little dynamic that they keep between the Morales family in this that is just so beautiful. This connection that they have with one another that I really do appreciate. And once again, Brian Tyree Henry and Luna Laura Velez do a phenomenal job. Obviously, Shamik Moore as Miles, phenomenal throughout this movie. I think that just, I don't need to touch on that too much. Again, I will say in this film, though, Haley Steinfeld's Gwen gets a much heavier focus in this film than she did in the previous one. We get to see a lot more of what's going on in her head, what's going on in her life, and this film itself is very much shared between the two of them. Whereas we were very much center focus on Miles in the previous film, we kind of share perspective with the two of them in this film, and I think this film is really about their individual journeys and how they kind of parallel one another. Obviously, all the Spider-Man stories kind of parallel one another, but there's something special about these two dynamics because they also kind of have a very similar but different story than all the other Spider people. I love the theme of not being told who you are, not having your story defined by somebody else. We see a glimpse of that in the trailers where he has that conversation with his mother talking about the people out in the world aren't going to like love you like we do. We're not going to support you like we do. We can't let them tear down this little boy that I want to protect, So I need you to protect him for me. So go out into the world and don't let people tell you who you are, what you can do. Live your life, define yourself, and follow your path, despite what others may or may not say. And that carries through this whole film, man. And there's very much so a story that is being forced upon him that he's not willing to accept, and that puts him at odds against the greater Spider people throughout the movie. And there's quite a lot of new faces in this film, man. Peter B. Parker definitely makes a return with Jake Johnson once again playing the character, but we got a lot of new faces in this. The Spot, played by Jason Schwartzman, and I didn't realize who he was, who was playing him initially, but I was like, man, why does this guy sound so familiar? And now thinking back to it, every line read he had, it was bringing me back to Gideon in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Outside of that, we got plenty of lovely cameos throughout this movie, man. There's some ones that really just, holy shit, surprised the crap out of me when they popped up. When we enter the Spider-Verse, this in-between with where all the spider people collect, we do have a core set of new faces that make up for the ones that we didn't have from the last film. Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, played by Issa Rae, though I don't think she had as much of a role as was kind of teased in the movie, and I think that'll come up a little bit more in Beyond the Spider-Verse. We have Prabhatir Prabhakar, who is Spider-Man India, played by Karan Soni. He was honestly one of my favorites out of these new arrivals. I really liked his aesthetic. I liked his world a lot. Again, each one of them have a very visually distinct universe compared to the others, and that one was just really interesting. There's a lot of really brilliant ones, but I really loved the vibe of his world and just his energy, the way his powers work. It was a lot of fun. I like seeing him. Another surprise for me was Daniel Kaluuya's Spider-Punk, Hobie. This guy was great and had such a huge core part of the film, and I really loved it. I also loved his shtick, his aesthetic, his attitude, because that anti-establishment kind of like vibe from that era that he's kind of encapsulating, that culture he's encapsulating. Oddly enough, it complements very well everything that's going on with here, and very much so contrasts Oscar Isaac's Miguel O'Hara, who is here really trying to rein in and control all these things because of the way he is tormented by the failings of his own life and is taken upon his own shoulders to keep these timelines intact, keep the story intact, keep the multiverse intact. He's the one that has united these spider people from across the Spider-Verse to ensure that it stays stable and doesn't fall apart. That starts to happen. I won't go into like how that happens or anything of the sort, but I really love the dynamic here, and Oscar Isaacs is performing his ass off, man. Miguel, in a lot of ways, is like quite the opposite of Miles in this, and that definitely puts them at odds in here, especially with Miles being like the newcomer to this whole group and has a very distinct role to play. But with all these new spider people running around, you know, what this movie does really well is it accentuates the best parts of Miles that really much encapsulates the whole aesthetic and idea of Spider-Man, but also what makes Miles different than all of them. It really does make him stand out. It makes him right at the center of this story in a lot of huge ways, and I love what they did with it, and I can't wait to see how they resolve it in the next film, because gotta remember, this is a part one of a two-parter. I know they removed the part one from the title, but this is still a part one. So when that to be continued hits at the end, I remember hearing a lot of people being like, wait, whoa, what? And you could feel it coming because there was this build to the end. Unlike with Fast X, which was just, you just cut. There wasn't any like build up. There wasn't any like closing energy. It was just black. That's it. It just happens. This one, like, you could feel this long lead in. Like, there's this build to the credits, to the cutoff. Because we were already pretty deep into the movie, man. This movie has some heft to it if we're talking the length of it. When you're getting to that home stretch, you can feel the end coming. And it builds up to a really logical stopping point, but a lot of people, again, I know aesthetically taking that part one off of it definitely sets an expectation that people were not prepared for, or at least general audiences did not see coming at all, and some of the reactions to that was hilarious, and I'm curious what I would have thought had I not known that this was originally pitched as a part one. And then we get the little Miles Morales will return and Beyond the Spider-Verse. Dude, this movie was great. It's hard to talk about it without talking about spoilers, man, but this movie is great. I cannot wait to see what they do with this next, man. It was so good. And especially the end. Holy crap. I think this is like a 10 out of 10. I don't think there's a damn thing in this movie that I had fault with. Anyway, I don't know how to talk about this movie past this point without talking about spoilers, and I'm not going to do that here. We might talk about it in our live stream next week, because I always bar spoilers the weekend of a movie release, so we'll talk about it next week. If you guys have any questions, feel free to join our live stream. We have those every Saturday, and just bring any questions you got. It's an open forum, so whatever anybody wants to talk about, we just kind of shoot the shit about it. But yeah, man, What'd you all think? Sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you're not already. And before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends. Manny Sher, Ryan, Karen, Philly Vane, Yorick Coruscant, Margaret Grace, Melito, Robert Angriano, Jeffrey Hale, M. Sephiroth, Jake Contrell, Tiff, and Eric Official. Thank you guys so much for continued support. But that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.